Decarbonization process will create more jobs, more business. That is mainly related to the renewable energy and hydrogen.
Hello, welcome viewers. Thanks for tuning in to this virtual session for one-to-one mining investments online content. This is an insight for investors into the hydrogen industry and the potential for scaling hydrogen fuel cell technologies to a commercially viable level. I'm very pleased to have with me today Dr. Katsuhiko Hirose, CEO and Chief Consultant at HyWealth Co. Katsu is also a visiting professor at the International Institute of Carbon Neutral Research at Kyushu University. And previously, Katsu was with Toyota Motor Corporation for 38 years in various roles, leading development of fuel cell efficiency and hydrogen fuel cell technologies, among others. So we're in great hands to hear all about hydrogen's role in a sustainable transport system and the investment potential here as well. Katsu, welcome and thanks for taking time to give us some insights today.
Thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to talk about the hydrogen potential for society and sustainable world. As he explained that I have been working for years in automotive industry. So I was lucky as an engineer to be involved for the first hybrid vehicle produced as the manager for the fuel economy and emission. And also later I was involved for the development of the fuel cell system. And later I was a planner to implement those technology into the society. Even this pandemic is a very, very sad thing, but I feel that is actually accelerating our collaboration for the new society. So I'm talking about hydrogen and hydrogen potential. So hydrogen is not just as a fuel for the cars. So hydrogen will enhance the renewable energy because renewable energy, most of them will generate electricity. But electron cannot be stored as a form of electrons. So electricity needs to be stored in the form of chemical, like a battery or hydrogen, or mechanical, like a hydropower or so. But once you store as a chemical, there's a big wide use of the chemical in our industry. So fuel for the, of course, transportation and the industry energy, because industry needs a very high temperature, and also the build heat, because of the in the northern countries, the 2/3 of energy is consumed by heating. So, and also we are living in a material world that we need a material. So even decarbonized society, we need a material like steel or plastic, and they are all need to be produced from the carbon neutral process. All of them needs hydrogen to enable those kind of the transition. Then I've been working together with the Hydrogen Council. Actually, I was like also again to initiate the idea of the Hydrogen Council because of when Elon Musk says something, the battery cover every newspaper, but we need somebody to be to counterpart of this. So it's starting from a joke that we need a bunch of CEOs. Actually, that is that we are able to gather the bunch of CEOs for Hydrogen Council in 2017. So then we work together to make the exact fact-based report. That is report from the Hydrogen Council. So actually, the 2050 for the decarbonization, we need to use the wide use of hydrogen from those kind of the application, and then that means 18% of the world energy can be propelled by hydrogen. And again, this will deplete the 6 gigaton of annual carbon dioxide emission. And the more important thing was $2.5 trillion of the business will be created. And also the important for the government that 30 million jobs can be created from this. So interesting is we work together with the economists that decarbonization will not just expense for the environment. So decarbonization process will create more jobs, more business. That is mainly related to the renewable energy and hydrogen. And also Japan finally announced become carbon neutral by 2050. It's a little bit delayed because Japan is still the world's third largest GDP-based industry, and also our economy is based on the manufacturing. So we produce huge amount of steel and the vehicles and so on. So we need a real energy. So this is not so easy. So Japan has been working for hydrogen for years. In early stage, hydrogen usage was rather energy security. So we'd like to expand the energy source from just unstable place like Middle East. So, and also Japan has no real local emission. So it's not so important to be use hydrogen for the emission. But of course, worldwide, the place like Europe, London, or Paris are very severe for the ozone, and also California and China. So the zero emission is getting very important. But the latest target is hydrogen is a vector to implement the carbon neutral society. And also the green growth, that is something also very important. So this is a picture of the Japanese government. So currently we are producing 1.5 gigaton of the carbon dioxide, mainly from the power sector and also the industry sector as well as the home sector. We need to change all these energy source into the carbon neutral. Then the hydrogen will play a very important role. The hydrogen can be both from the outside Japan, like Australia, Middle East, or even Russia, and also the internal one, like a renewable. So the strategy is while implementing those technologies, and also with R&D, we decrease the cost of the technology. So to minimize the influence. But because of the recent pandemic and so on, the strategy can be slightly different. I will explain a little bit for the case of the Europe. But anyway, the future will be a hybrid system. That is a combination of the renewable and the fossil fuel with a minimum emission to the outside. To achieve this, we need electricity and hydrogen. And this is a picture drawn by the METI, Japanese government. So, but as again, that decarbonization is not just the benefit for the environment. For example, Japan is easy. We are importing oil around 70 or 90 billion dollars every year. So mainly from Middle East. But it was peaked in the $160 billion a year in 2008. So there's always the big the trade balance shift by the energy price. And also the LNG also we import a lot. So together that is something like $130, $150 billion every year. So if we replace those oil and LNG into our own renewable, or with hydrogen, we can improve the efficiency. We can reduce quite amount of the expenditure. So I calculate a little bit modest model. That's 5% annual the alternation from 2030 to 2050. That actually reduce expenditure around $1.5 trillion for Japanese economy. So energy transition is not just energy source change. This will lead a huge industrial and economical change. So how we change this, how we use this challenge or chance into our economy, that is something we need to focus it. So currently, this is something the hydrogen production cost from IEA 2020. So there are several differences between on the left is blue hydrogen, so steam methane reforming without CCS and with CCS. So of course, currently without CCS is cheaper, but in the future, because of the carbon tax and those, the blue hydrogen can be more expensive than green or with the CCS. And even in electrolyzer, currently expensive, but it will go down drastically and competitive with fossil fuel. This is something, so some people say the hydrogen is expensive and cannot make a profit, but it highly depends on how you value the future decarbonized society. And total cost of ownership will be, also this is again from the Hydrogen Council report. So total cost of ownership for the use of the hydrogen for transport will be halved within 10 to 20 years time. This is a break-even cost. So vertical is $1 per kilogram, and on the right is amount of energy. So on the left is there are no alternative to decarbonize. On the right side is something that you have some competition with the energy source, like a coal and so on. So current estimate within a 10 years time, quite a large amount of the energy on the left can be competitive with hydrogen, with the green hydrogen. But that is also highly depend on the tax, carbon tax. So this is something that we still need to work. So how evaluate the future green society? So if you put a lot of high tax, that can accelerate. But some people, we need spend a lot of money in advance. So we need a proper way to accelerate this transition. So this is something we still need to work. Because energy transition needs a long time. So once you build the power station, most of the power station continue 30 years, 40 years. So a lot of discussion about the coal power station planning now. if you once build these, it will continue until the middle of the 2040s or even 50. So that's why the people are talking a lot about the debatement, those kind of the power, coal power station or so. But anyway, in the reality, every technology needs some time to change. But interesting is 2 years ago, we calculate how much we need to accelerate that kind of transition for the hydrogen to be competitive with the fossil fuel. So this is something that, so renewable hydrogen needs 70 gigawatt scale of the development. That needs $20 billion. Or other way is transportation. You need a huge infrastructure to build a hydrogen station. So that means you need a $10 billion. So in total, you need a $50 to $100 billion. So $50 to $100 billion is not so small money in 2 years ago. But when we are now working with the COVID-19 recovery, $50 billion or $100 billion become relatively small. So then the EU pick up this. So we want the better society than before the pandemic. So if we spend such kind of money, we can accelerate the energy transition from the fossil base to the decarbonized society. So actually, the EU decided to build huge amount of the electrolyzer to reduce the cost of the electrolyzer and hydrogen. So anyway, this is something I don't explain a lot, but it's cheaper to accelerate the energy transition. If it takes a long time, you need a huge money. So that means quicker the better. Maybe I will share this presentation later, so somebody is interested, you can read the original report. But anyway, for EU, they decided to accelerate the energy transition with hydrogen. That's why they decided to massive investment plan for the hydrogen and climate change technologies. At the same time, for hydrogen, the people complain that if you have electrons, it is better to store in the battery because of this is the picture on the left is if you store the hydrogen electricity in the battery, you lose 5 or 10%. But when you get electrons, you lose another 5 or 10%. But anyway, total loss will be 15 to 20%. But in case of the hydrogen, when you electrolyze the water, you will lose 30%, 20 to 30% of the energy. And when you produce electricity from hydrogen, even using the fuel cell, you lose another 30 or 40%. In total, your return will be only less than half, compared with 80% for the battery. This looks quite stupid to use hydrogen. So this is a little bit, this is a common skeptical for the hydrogen. But this is true as a chemical form. But I got some idea from this picture. I took this picture at the market in Europe. Interesting is we eat a lot everyday meat and bread, but in the market there are more cheese stores. Why? Because cheese is probably making more money. Why? Because of the system. So you have a lot of in summer you have a lot of milk, and drinking a milk is more efficient to get the energy from the food, but you cannot store the milk. So that's why they convert the milk into the cheese and store it. So and this is quite interesting. If you apply this, the milk creates the product like cheese. Cheese itself has a value, and cheese can be a product of time shift. So you can choose the season from summer to winter or any time. And also once you convert the milk into the cheese, you have a different value because of the good cheese will compete the salami or caviar. So no longer rely on the cost of production. So I said this can be very similar for the hydrogen with the renewables, because you build a lot of renewables, the windmills, solar, you have a lot of very cheap electrons. Once you produce a chemical like hydrogen, you can use this energy in later days. And also once you convert into the hydrogen will replace expensive energy like oil or liquid natural gas. So from the thermal point of view, the energy efficiency of the battery will be better. But from the economical point of view, the hydrogen conversion will not be a loss. So electrons to the hydrogen, if you use properly in a society, this will create more values. So I always said the hydrogen conversion, we should not call the energy conversion. This is a milk cheese conversion. So this is the right way to understand the situation. And physics and economy are quite relatively different. So this is a little more academic introduction. So from the point, the vertical is the economic value and the horizontal is the physics. So you lose, when you electrolyze the water, you lose the physical value, the thermal value, but you increase the economic value. And then you can compete the economic value of the oil. So hydrogen can be sold as a value of the oil. Of course, it is a bit difficult to compete the coal or natural gas because they are quite cheap. But when you have a proper the value of the green society, this picture shows how much that carbon tax already implemented. In Sweden was the huge amount, $139, and even the France, that is $33, and Japan is very cheap. But this will be something in changing. So most of the governments now thinking to put some carbon tax. Then the previous picture can be differentiated by. So if you put the carbon tax on it, that will increase the economic value of the hydrogen. Anyway, to achieve the decarbonized society, you need hydrogen, and that can be also very variable. So this has been a very common question, battery or hydrogen. For transport, as I said, because the competition will be expensive oil, so it's relatively easy. But also people thinking the battery electric vehicles easily. But this is something the energy usage. On the top is a small car. So small car is quite a high number, but energy consumption is relatively small. So this is the comparison of the each sector's energy usage. That means the carbon emission. So most of the carbon emission are coming from the long range, relatively large passenger, heavy duty truck, even the aviation and ships. So if really decarbonize the society, you need to use, replace the lower part. That means this is a horizontal axis is the average, the mileage per day, and vertical is the size of the vehicles. So people watching the EV is getting more and more, but in terms of energy, the electrification of the vehicle is not enough. So you need to replace the lighter and heavier, longer range vehicle, like then the hydrogen will come. Of course, this is the Mirai, the passenger car. There's a lot of argument about whether passenger car need hydrogen or not, but it's not a big problem. So even the aviation people thinking, when I see this, it can be a very long time to go. So I was sitting in this, but this is interesting. You can fly this airplane more than 1,000 kilometers, even the current technology, with a 5 kilogram of hydrogen. So Airbus also announced that they will go into the hydrogen aviation and also the maritime, and also heavy duty and the train. And also some people putting the fuel cell into the trucks and even the drones or helicopters. And again, I'm talking about the blue and green. So blue and green seem to be the interesting the argument. But as again, to accelerate the energy transition as quick as possible, the cheapest way is mixture of the green and blue and the green. So because of that, currently the blue hydrogen or foreseeable future, it can be cheapest. Then in the middle to long term, green will be the cheapest. So the mixture of these technology, even there are a lot of discussion. I know that the CCS, where you captured and the carbon is always an issue. Like Japan, we don't have a very stable land. So, but in Europe or in Australia, the Australia continent are stable in the last 200 million years. So that kind of place you can find the CCS easily. But anyway, previously people thinking the electricity in the beginning, especially for the renewable, but electricity has a quite inflexible because electron cannot be stored. That means you need to exact balance demand and production. So this is why there's a blackout in many countries. So, but we don't like blackout. So then the people thinking about the storage. The storage is something, sometimes the battery but when you think about stable, flexible, the backbone necessary to accommodate the carbon neutral society. So in this sense, hydrogen will play a very important role because of the when you have a hydrogen backbone, you can put renewable energy from everywhere, and you can extract hydrogen to generate electricity without emission. So the hydrogen infrastructure can be a backbone of the future carbon neutral society. And electricity can be on top. The future society will be something like this. The beautiful society will be based on the hydrogen. And also hydrogen will be very, very flexible. So I just calculate for Japan, one 24-inch pipeline can transmit 5 gigawatt energy. So, and you have a pipeline from Hokkaido to Kyushu, the 3,000 kilometers. That is equivalent to a 200 gigawatt hour of the energy. This is equivalent to the whole pump-up hydro in Japan. We have one of the largest energy storage pump-up hydro because of we have a lot of mountains, hydropower. But in the only one pipeline can accommodate equivalent to such a big investment in the past. So as a society, this is a quite interesting investment. Also, that is also under discussion in Europe also, because you have a pipeline from north to south. You can transmit huge energy from where the renewables are available. And also this will create a lot of flexibility. You can get out the hydrogen from anywhere on the line. And also you can use the existing natural gas pipeline. So anyway, industry wants energy as cheap as possible. Yes, hydrogen can be cheaper. Government create jobs. Yes, hydrogen will create more jobs. And also the hydrogen will create very, very flexible and also new values for the society. The same as. So anyway, interesting thing with the hydrogen will be the very flexible backbone. But there's some difficulties because of we still do not evaluate the future green sustainable society. If we value the future green society, hydrogen implementation of hydrogen creates huge values. But for investors, how we get return from the beautiful world? Like for Teslas, people put a lot of money because Tesla will be very valuable to implement those green mobility. Then they calculate by the stock exchange price. But we do not still have how to evaluate the future sustainable society. This is still we need to work for the attract more investment. So if you only think about the hydrogen side or electric side, that will be very difficult to make money. I like this word very much. End of Stone Age was not due to the lack of stone. So behind me, this is a picture of the few minutes away from my house. These cherry trees are planted by my grandfather 70 years ago, just after the war. So planting a cherry tree is not a very fun. But I believe that our grandfather enjoys while imaging the children, grandchildren smiles. So I think the energy transition is not easy. We need a lot of hard work. But this is something designing the future. So we cannot change the past at present. but we can change the future. We can even design the future together. And it is fun and also beneficial for the investors. So let's enjoy the climate challenge with the image of our children's or grandchildren's smile. Then we can work very hard, but a lot of fun. Thank you very much. Sorry, a little bit longer.
Fantastic. Thanks, Katsu. That was excellent. I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
On the materials inputs to get the hydrogen industry to scale, do you have any analysis or any view on where there is a supply tightness because that might slow down or become part of the challenge of scaling the hydrogen industry?
Yes, that's a good question. Because of this is also a good comparison with the battery. Battery is a lithium or cobalt or these very, very limiting issue, and also that limits the acceleration. For the case of the hydrogen society, of course, you need some kind of the precious metal like platinum for the fuel cell or this, but that will not the very absolute restriction because of during the energy transition, like the current use of the platinum for the catalyst for the diesel can be used for the fuel cell. And the amount of the usage of the platinum is quite equivalent to the amount of the diesels.
Okay,
so that means if the number of the car is same, theoretically the platinum will be no shortage.
Yeah. So good news for platinum producers if they're worried about electric vehicles taking away their business. Actually, hydrogen has a lot of business potential there.
Yeah.
Very good. One other thing I wanted to touch on, and you did a lot of slides on the distribution network around pipelines, but is the distribution network, do you see it as part of a big challenge, in terms of Japan's very leading in hydrogen. China, as far as I understand, is doing a lot. EU has a lot of capital, a lot of investment, but they're looking at old infrastructure, adapting old gas pipelines. That's possible. But do you think the distribution network is one of the bigger challenges as well about scaling outside of Japan, internationally scaling this?
Yes. So internal renewable energy is ideal, but because of the Japan's situation, the renewable is not so cheap as Middle East or Australia. So actually, in some sense, we are planning to import the hydrogen from those cheap renewable energies place, even the Middle East or Africa. So, but this will create more jobs in those countries together with Japan. So the previous way of the energy is cash flow, focusing on the people who owns those resources. But the renewable energy are widespread and everywhere. So if you have a lot of water, you can produce electricity from the river or hydropower, and you have a lot of sunshine, you can produce, and you have a wind, you have, or even you have the sea stream, that sea stream can generate the electricity. So that means you need a lot of effort, but that effort will create more economy than just the one-way cashing from the country like Japan to Middle East or the Europe to Russia. So
Yeah.
So the logistics is very important, and also that is also the place of the investment also, because of there will be a lot of competition between the ammonia, liquid hydrogen, and the LOHC, the liquid organic hydrogen carrier, or even the pipeline. So it's a good the competition. And I believe these will be competitively cheap, all of them, because they compete each other.
Yes. Yep, certainly that makes sense. Coming back to cost then and looking at some of your slides, I just wanted to clarify. You see 2035 or sort of 15 years time is going to be a period when the cost competitiveness of owning a hydrogen vehicle and the cost competitiveness of using hydrogen over other energy sources in the mix is actually we're gonna see that come into play. But you think that's around 2035, right?
That is a rather previous figure.
Okay.
Because of the European decision and also Japanese government decision will put a lot of money to accelerate those kind of so. Then, like I said, solar power, when the prediction of the solar panel in 2020 was not quick as because most of the solar panel was actually the solar electricity is cost cheaper than fossil fuel now. Yes. In many places. But that was this prediction of the 2030 or beyond in 2020. But we are only 2020 or 21. We already get that figure. So if you invest a lot and maybe the cost of the hydrogen will be cheaper much earlier than people think. Yeah.
Yep. Certainly. It's exciting times, and it seems like with the energy transition accelerating in all areas, that those competitiveness of the hydrogen sector could come online quicker. Thank you very much, Katsu, for your very comprehensive presentation. It's been very insightful to get an understanding of where this industry is at and where it's going.
Yeah, you are welcome. And also this cannot be done by somebody. This energy transition, chasing the beautiful world, can be only achievable with everybody.